Do you know your history? Swan Lake, Thumbelina, digital computing, the Mona Lisa. These are some of the contributions of LGBTQ individuals throughout history.
Stories are visibility, and it's much harder to be homophobic if you understand the contributions of the LGBT community.
Presidents, soldiers, artists, Eleanor Roosevelt, Alexander the Great, Andy Warhol.
Growing up, sometimes you don't understand what a role model is, then alone what an LGBTQ two-spirit role model is and can look like. I think it's really great to honor those role models through storytelling.
Daughters, sons, mothers, fathers. Strong, outspoken, fierce.
This is an opportunity for us as a community to really make people aware of some of the contributions of LGBTI community folks through history.
Plato, Handel, King James I, and Florence Nightingale. Scientists, feminists, satirists, athletes.
If we're going to be moving forward progressively, we need to know where we've come from. This type of project will help us to learn that history.
Counting the Blues, the FBI, the scientific method, the Sistine Chapel.
It's really important for folks to know that through the ages, LGBTI people have been very prevalent. We're here, we're contributors to society, and we contribute in many different ways.
LGBTQ individuals can be inspired by other LGBTQ individuals and realize that their ideas and their contributions could be meaningful and could actually transform the world for the better.
Václav Nijinsky, Billie Jean King, and Socrates. Creative, progressive, fearless.
These are people who, for me, are role models and are inspirations in the sense that it also makes me want to be more vocal and more out in my own life because of the work that they've done.
We have to understand what that history is and why we celebrate and we have parades today, because they weren't always parades before. And if we become too lax with our celebrations, we can forget where those roots came from.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the third annual Greater Dayton LGBTQ HER/History Rubi Awards. We are back as a recorded show for the second year out of an abundance of caution due to the COVID pandemic. I'm Jim McKinnon, one of the volunteers that make up the project. I am a lifelong member of the Dayton area. I am an archivist at a local museum where I create and maintain historic records. I have served on the Greater Dayton LGBT Center board and have been a volunteer on this committee for 3 years. My co-president tonight is Carrie Gray.
Thanks, Jim. It's my pleasure to help present these awards this year. I've lived in Dayton for more than 30 years and have seen our community change a lot in that time and have seen it create a lot of history. I currently serve as Dayton Mayor Nan Whaley's LGBTQ Community Liaison and led the City of Dayton's participation in the Human Rights Campaign's Municipal Equality Index. I volunteered to assist a variety of groups in our community to raise money to support services right here in Dayton's queer community and to work to have better, fairer laws in place. I'm proud to be a part of Dayton's LGBTQ history and proud to have been around to see other people create that history as well. Celebrating our history is important for at least 2 reasons. First, it's important to remember that the freedoms we have today, although incomplete, exist because other people worked hard, sacrificed, sometimes lost jobs or family members, to make sure that those freedoms would exist. Some of the earlier pioneers who worked for these freedoms are still alive and among us, and others have passed on. None of their efforts should be forgotten. Second, our history often gets downplayed in the broader history of our country. In nearly every aspect of history, our LGBTQ forebearers were part of it. But our stories are not told, or the LGBTQ angle gets ignored. There have been LGBTQ athletes and astronauts, politicians and business people, soldiers, scientists, and religious leaders. We need to remember those people. This group exists to remember and celebrate the local pioneers, and we do it to inspire people today to push boundaries and create their own history. We've had LGBTQ politicians, even cabinet-level appointments, but we haven't had an openly LGBTQ governor or president yet. This program might be part of what inspires you to become the first or the next to do something to expand our common story.
Last year, one of the people we recognized was Sue Elam, one of the parents of this LGBTQ HER history project. She held on to the idea of celebrating our stories and helped make that happen. Jerry Mallicoat was an individual who she shared her idea with and who got excited about the possibilities she envisioned. Jerry has become a leader in the LGBTQ community in various places where he lived for many years. Through his job at Public Health Dayton, Montgomery County, he worked to improve the quality of care that was provided to LGBTQ people by improving the training given to medical providers and by increasing services for health issues affecting our community. As a board member of Rainbow Elder Care of Greater Dayton, he worked on ensuring that older members of the community had access to housing and services that respected them as out members of the LGBTQ community. After living lives full of pride for decades, no one wants to hide who they are because they're concerned about being safe in their later years, or afraid to share all of their history with medical providers. I got to know Jerry through the LGBTQ HER History Project and admired his commitment to the projects he worked on. Sadly, Jerry died unexpectedly this past January, just before he could see Pete Buttigieg named America's first openly LGBTQ cabinet member. Whatever Jerry committed to, he gave 100% of his energy and attention. Most of all, he gave that attention to his husband, John, their nieces and nephews, and Her Royal Highness Rosie, the four-legged ruler of the family. We'll never forget Jerry as a friend, a mentor, and one of the founders of this project. I'm happy to introduce John Cummings, Jerry Mallicoat's husband, and present him tonight with the first Rubi Award in memory of Jerry.
Thank you, Jim, and thank you to the Her History Project team for honoring Jerry this way. I know he would have been humbled by this, knowing how valued he already felt as one of the founding members of this project. Jerry loved the work you all had started a few years ago with the first Rubi Awards and the task of pulling together Dayton's rich LGBTQ history. He knew that monumental change didn't just happen elsewhere in the country, it also happened here in the Miami Valley too, with various venues and events that helped shape what our community would become and where it will go in the future. This is especially great, knowing how passionate Jerry was about how this project would evolve and everything else he threw himself into, whether it was Rainbow Elder Care or the coalitions he worked with as the LGBTQ Health Initiatives Manager for Public Health Dayton, Montgomery County. Jerry believes so strongly that the voices of those in the LGBTQ community needed to be known, valued, and shared widely, because we all have value and something to bring to the table every single day. I know Jerry is missed by so many people, so very much in the Miami Valley, but no one more than me. I know his legacy will live on in the work of the Her History team and in all that he was involved in. And Jerry lives on in each of you, too. Thank you for remembering his love, his care, and his commitment to the history that binds us all.
As we mentioned, the Rubi Award is named after the Rubi Girls, who the committee felt truly epitomize all of the positive attitudes of our community. If you attended the in-person inaugural event, you will remember how wonderful it was for so many people from across our LGBTQ community, as well as the ally community, come together in honor of our local trailblazers for equality, our heroes and sheroes, as well as pivotal events and places and organizations and establishments. We look forward to being able to gather when it is safe to, hopefully next year. It's challenging to make a program like this into a virtual event. Last year, if you recall, we had a few glitches, and so this year, we've made some significant improvements behind the scenes. Soon, we'll be back together and celebrating in person again. Here are the members of this year's steering committee: Jim McKinnon, Melissa Rodriguez, Jordan Ailes, Carrie Gray, Aaron Craig, and Randy Phillips. We also want to give a heartfelt thanks to all of our sponsors, without whom we wouldn't be able to do this. This year, our sponsors are Equitas Health, the Greater Dayton LGBT Center, and Rainbow Elder Care of Greater Dayton. Now let's meet our 2021 Rubi Award honorees. All of the honorees receive a Rubi Crystal Prism and a certificate signed by Mayor Nan Whaley. Our first honoree is Leslie Loper. Leslie has been a worker, leader, handholder, and advocate for more than 40 years. When AIDS first affected a close friend of hers, she thought someone ought to do something. She decided that she was going to be that someone. She started as a buddy for people living with AIDS, helping them with their day-to-day life and being a friend. She went on to enhance the buddy program and later helped start AIDS Foundation Dayton, an organization that is a forerunner to Equitas. Through AIDS Foundation Dayton, she was involved in Newsom House, the first housing program for people living with AIDS in the Dayton area, and the Tree House, which was a social center. She was named a top 10 woman by Dayton Daily News in 1990, helped bring the Names Project quilt to the Dayton area, and made quilt panels for local people. Leslie has been a loving, caring, hands-on volunteer most of her life. Her service has primarily been in the Dayton area, but she has also worked in the Youngstown area and on statewide projects. As an ally, she has always been willing to be of service to those who needed assistance. I'm happy to introduce Leslie to say a few words and receive her award.
I am honored to receive this award. I am very pleased that it is called the Rubi Award because I have had years of friendship and working on projects with the Rubi Girls. I would like to thank the Gay Center for presenting me with the HER in History Award. I would like to thank Jim Garvey and Sandy Kulik for nominating me. I would like to accept this award in honor and memory of the men, women, and children who have been affected by AIDS.
Our next honoree is Father Richard Young. Father Young has served in ministry to LGBTQ plus folk for decades through Dignity Dayton and the Living Beatitudes community. Starting with an existing community, Richard helped grow and expand the community to include the whole LGBTQ plus family, as well as married priests and spouses and Roman Catholic women priests to serve disenfranchised people of all faiths. Richard has served as a celebrant for Living Beatitudes community and as a guest minister at Metropolitan Community Church congregations and at Harmony Creek United Church of Christ. After service in a religious order, Richard served as a case manager for many people living with AIDS and has counseled, tested, and ministered to hundreds of men and women, primarily in rural communities. His Rural HIV Collaborative hosted an annual statewide event drawing hundreds of participants. He expanded and developed healing circles, which are support groups for people living with HIV and AIDS, offering support for many who felt little other support. His natural skills as a counselor have made him a safe refuge for many people struggling with unjust church teachings and seeking a vibrant faith life. A quiet man reluctant to blow his own horn, many people have been deeply touched by his acts of service and love for justice for the LGBTQ+ community. Father Richard Young is with us to receive his award.
Well, thank you to the board of the LGBT Center. I'm honored, very honored to receive this award. And I want to say that I'm honored to receive it along with other good folks who have served this community so well over the years. I think, for example, of my good friend Ann Wilger, who's an honored member of our faith community, former PFLAG mom, a board member of PFLAG National. Great lady, and to be mentioned in the same sentence with her is an honor. So, and it was great to see Leslie, a recipient of an award as well. Leslie has worked with me on a number of occasions, serving folks in the LGBTQ+ community, Healing Circle, and so on. I'm glad to hear an acknowledgement of the great folks that I worked with when I was in public mental health. When I retired from there a number of years ago, I had worked as a licensed counselor for over 2 decades, and did a lot of very rewarding work, rewarding to me, among the LGBTQ+ community and our allies. And I want to say that we must not forget our allies. They've been there for us, such as Anne and Leslie, for so many years. So I stand here as a man full of gratitude and wishing all of you at least as many blessings as I have had serving this community over the years.
Linda Bush is our next honoree. Linda was one of the original women who started Women's Hours on Wednesday nights. These Women's Nights were a weekly opportunity to gather, share information on specific topics, and socialize with other women. Linda was a leader of this group for many years, ensuring a safe place and common meeting time and place. At a time when there were not many places for women to gather safely, Linda helped to make sure they had a place. Her efforts helped to ensure that emerging political power could be taken up by women and that their priorities became part of the priorities of the larger community. Linda was also involved in women's music at Canal Street Tavern. We're pleased to have Linda join us via Zoom to accept her Rubi Award.
This is a huge honor for me, and I'll tell you why. Sometimes you wonder if what we do in life makes a difference. Sometimes you wonder if what we're doing is right. This tells me I did something right, that my life is worthwhile. I have never received anything, and so many of us don't. So many of us have been forgotten. So I accept this award with all my heart for Miss Vicky and all those that came before us, because if it were not for them, we would not be here. Thank you so much for the committee and for the mayor. Mayor Whaley, thank you for the certificate and recognition. It was a long way to come from being nothing but a rug to someone whose life mattered. Thank you so much.
We're pleased to recognize Sandy and Oleh Mudry and David's Place. When Sandy and Oleh lost their son David at age 23, they were determined to have David's life of service to others continue. David was raised in Oakwood and graduated from University of Kentucky, where he continued his Boy Scout work through Alpha Phi Omega. Based on David's commitment to serve others, the Mudrys began to work with Daybreak, Dayton's emergency shelter for runaway and homeless youth. The Mudrys and Daybreak created David's Place, specifically tailored to the needs of LGBTQ+ youth. Nationally, 40% of homeless youth identify as LGBTQ+, and services are often very limited. David's Place officially opened its doors earlier this month, having begun services earlier in the year, and they offer a broad array of services and access to other services that may be needed, including housing, medical care, and assistance with education. Most important, David's Place is an open and inclusive space where young people who have little support can find support and encouragement. David's Place makes Dayton one of the few communities of our size with a comprehensive youth-focused LGBT program that includes access to housing if needed. We are honored to have Sandy Mudry with us tonight to receive the award for their work and for David's Place.
Thank you very much to the Dayton LGBTQ community for this lovely award. My husband and I, along with my family, friends, acquaintances, everyone we've met at Daybreak, we're just so thankful for this award and that David's Place has come to fruition. And of course, thank you to my David for his inspiration now and continuing.
Our next honoree is Randle B. Moore III. Randle was born in Atlanta, Georgia, but raised in Dayton, Ohio. After a brief stint in prison, he returned to restart his life. His work with veterans experiencing homelessness led him to apply for a job at Equitas Health, then known as AIDS Resource Center. He began to educate the LGBTQ community about PrEP, a drug highly effective at preventing HIV transmission. Randle worked across the southern half of Ohio in all parts of our community. He transferred to Columbus when he began to run a program to help men of color become ambassadors for HIV and STI testing and prevention, and then developed a new program to help at-risk individuals in a state program expanding access to PrEP. Currently, Randle is back in Dayton, serving as Equitas's Community Relations Coordinator, breaking barriers to getting HIV prevention education to community members. Whether Randle is at work, at his church, or with his friends, he is always sharing education, breaking down barriers, and encouraging people to be their best. He takes every opportunity to live out John Wesley's guiding words: do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all the people you can, as long as ever you can.
Good evening, everyone. I want to take an opportunity to say thank you to my friends and colleagues who have nominated me for this very important award. I humbly accept this award on behalf of the greater Dayton LGBTQ community. Thank you.
Michael Knote is our final honoree for this evening. Have a Gay Day was founded by Michael as a Facebook memorial page for Jamie Rodemeyer, a New York State teenager who completed suicide after facing horrifying levels of bullying. Have a Gay Day grew to begin to work with other organizations to help promote pride, to remember LGBTQ+ folk whose lives had been taken, and to address the challenges the LGBTQ+ people face every day. After outgrowing a few locations, Michael's dream for Have a Gay Day to have a visible, prominent location has come true. Although warned about the new location because it was in the wrong part of town and might attract people who would cause problems, Have a Gay Day has become a valuable part of the LGBTQ+ and larger community. It offers a food pantry open to all and has one of the few pet food pantries in the area. Year-round, they offer tokens to laundry facilities so people can continue to clean their clothes. Michael Knote will tell you that this is not just his work and will share the praise received with his many volunteers. However, there is no question that Have a Gay Day exists and continues to exist because of Michael's dedication and determination. Michael's approach of an LGBTQ+ program that is also designed to introduce the larger community to our community and to show the similarity all people have is a unique approach to community building. Seeing a need and finding a way to fit it has been the foundation of all that Michael does. Please welcome Jan Couchman, who will introduce Michael Knote.
I had the distinct pleasure of nominating Michael Knote for this award tonight, and I'm honored to be here to present the award to him for all that he has done in the LGBT community. I'd like to honor him by presenting him this award.
Thank you so much, Jan. I definitely appreciate your nomination. Was not expecting it at all. Thank you so much to everyone that made this possible. The Rubi Award is something that I cherish and I know that makes a huge difference to so many in this community. I would like to thank everyone that has allowed me to be here. The community has supported everything that I've done, and without you all, this wouldn't be possible. Thank you so much to all the volunteers of Have a Gay Day and all the organizations here in Dayton that represent the LGBT community so well. Thank you so much.
Before we continue, I want to again thank our sponsors of the HER/History Project and the Rubi Awards. We couldn't do this without support from our community. Again, our sponsors are Equitas Health, the Greater Dayton LGBT Center, and Rainbow Elder Care of Greater Dayton.
We've almost reached the conclusion of our program. First, we want to congratulate all of tonight's Rubi Award honorees and thank them for the inspirational lives they lead and all of the impactful work they have done over the years. They have each impacted our lives and our community in ways big and small. Whether they've made their presence felt over decades or have found a way to make a big impact in a shorter period, every effort is important. These individuals are being recognized because their work represents the work that many others have done to create a community, to help make the larger community fairer, and to help the next generations of leaders see their potential. It is often the tedious and slow work that in retrospect shows the arc of the moral universe bending towards justice, to paraphrase Dr. King. Every effort to raise awareness, educate and advocate for our community, to stand up to protect and gain our rights makes a difference. After all, some of our greatest LGBTQ historic icons, I'm sure, didn't always think that everything they did each and every day was pivotal in advancing equality. But with time, we know that it was and is. In the words of James Baldwin, one of our national heroes, civil rights activist, and authors, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced.
There's always more work to do for equality, and understanding and celebrating our history can help motivate and guide our future efforts. It's always important to take time like this to remember, memorialize, and honor the good work that the LGBTQ+ people and our allies have done. If you're interested in preserving our herstory and our history, I encourage you to join us. You can email us at lgbtdaytonhistory@gmail.com to become involved. Again, we celebrate all of the honorees and our sponsors. We thank you for joining us this evening and for your support. Together we have already accomplished so much, but there is still more to do and more history to make. Now, we all need to get out there and make some history. We want to wish you all a good night, be safe, and I hope next year we can all be together in person.